Episode 2. Synopsis. Cover person, Margaret. Niss finally entered the monastery under Luke's leadership, and after the ordination ceremony, Niss finally took the first step towards becoming a bishop. And during the enlightening process of ordination, God revealed an object to guide him. After getting acquainted with Luke and his group, Niss learned that they were going to undergo a study trip experiment. Niss suggested focusing their goals on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. However, the difficulty they faced was character introduction. Niss Hort Cancel, son of a baron, mother unknown. Luke Sebastian Catherine Bettman, Viscount's second son, a playboy, rude, reckless, and willing to spend money. Ist Singh, Viscount's second son, a dandy and a prodigal, skilled in songs and various arts. Metlo Diego, nobleman, without inherited title, attendant, quick-witted, well-informed. Palmer Glaris, a nobleman without a title, a thug with decent strength, ambitious. Initially, he saw others as easy targets, but later gradually integrated into the circle. Prince Philip, the Prince of the Kingdom of Colombia, is the nephew of the Grand Duchess of Styria. Fayman Aragon, one of the 12 main priests of the Templar Knights, the protagonist's guide. Chapter 1, Impressions of the Hidden Monastery. The morning in the monastery comes earlier than in other places. As the bells for morning prayer ring, everyone walks out of their rooms one after another. Those who come here for night training also participate in the morning prayer. In the crowd, Niss sees Luke. Similarly, Luke also saw him, and this gossipy guy immediately approached with a smile. "How did you sleep last night? Did anything happen?" "No." Niss can only lie, but this is not considered a lie because he really didn't do anything, he just touched with his hand. He subconsciously flicked his finger, still feeling a slippery sensation there. "I have obtained the permission of the dean. After the prayer is over, we will set off. It won't be an easy journey." Luke spoke about his plans. Morning prayer is conducted inside the chapel, with Niss following Luke and entering together with other monks. The church was packed with people. Niss estimated that there were probably 200 to 300 in total. This was about the same as he had predicted earlier. In the dormitory area behind, each floor had 2 rows of rooms facing each other, totaling 60 rooms. With 4 floors, that made a total of 240 rooms, which matched the numbers on both sides very well. For him, this is the first time seeing all the people inside the monastery. The entire chapel is clearly divided into 2 sections. In the front, there are formal monks, while in the back, there are students and people who come here to learn martial arts in exchange for food. Although they are dressed the same, they give off completely different vibes. The steward Anthony he saw yesterday is also in front now, following someone wearing a white robe. There is only one person wearing a white robe here, no need to ask, he must be the dean of the monastery. He is also an elderly man with a slender figure. Compared to the old man at the gate, the dean seems younger, perhaps due to his status. This dean appears more peaceful, unlike the old man at the gate who sometimes unintentionally exudes a sense of aggression. However, Niss definitely dare not underestimate this abbot, as he exudes a sacred aura. Similar breath, Niss has seen it on the old man Simon, and also seen it on the bishop. Speaking of the intensity of the breath, naturally the bishop is even better, but the bishop's breath appears somewhat chaotic, far from the purity and refinement of the abbot in front of him. The holy power comes from faith, so the clergy have more advantages in this regard. The purity of holy power is related to the proximity to God. The purer it is, the closer one is to God, and the easier it is to receive a response from God. The most direct manifestation is that the purer the holy power is when performing divine arts, the less it is consumed, and the better the effect. There are not only the dean who possesses a strong aura. In the area ahead, there are at least 5 or 6 individuals who are equally or slightly less powerful, while others are at a level similar to that of high-ranking priests. A monastery hides so many powerful figures, and Niss finally has some understanding of the church's strength. Powerful is not only the cultivators, but also many individuals in their group who emit a strong aura. However, this is not a calm and gentle divine aura, but rather a breath filled with aggression and slaughter. When Luke first mentioned the coaches here, he said they were very talented. At that time, Niss didn't pay much attention. In his opinion, how could a truly capable knight end up hiding in a monastery to make a living? Obviously, his idea is wrong. A person's status and circumstances do not necessarily reflect their abilities. The morning prayer ceremony is very grand, and the time is particularly long, lasting a full hour before it concludes. After the prayer, it was breakfast time. However, Niss didn't have a good impression of the food here, so he let Luke go eat by himself while he went back to his room to pack his things. Half an hour later, he stood at the entrance of the monastery, carrying a large bag. Inside the bag were the things he had brought yesterday and the suit of armor, while the large sword was slung over his shoulder with the bag hanging from one end of the sword. After a moment, Luke also came out, holding a long wooden stick in his hand. Both ends of the stick were wrapped in iron, clearly a weapon. Luke continued to lead the way in front, with Niss following behind. The two of them left the small town and walked along a small path. It is a dirt road, but between the soil, there are large and small stones and yellow sand. Niss knows that this is to prevent weeds from growing. Besides these two things, there is probably also lime underneath. Every 5 or 6 meters, you can also see wood buried horizontally underground, obviously to prevent rainwater from washing away the yellow sand and stones. This knowledge was not instilled in his mind by the old man, but rather the result of his own analysis. Now, whenever he sees something, he naturally understands the reason behind it. This can only happen in a situation where one's experience is extremely rich, which he already possesses. Luke walked ahead, sweeping his long stick back and forth through the grass on both sides. This was definitely not for fun. Every now and then, something would be driven out of the bushes. The most common were various types of insects, from grasshoppers and crickets to scorpions and centipedes. Sometimes, lizards and toads would also dart out. What was most terrifying was when a snake slithered out of the grass. It was a snake with a grayish-green back, and it didn't seem venomous, but Luke wasn't too sure. The secluded monastery is not far from the town, just a dozen miles away, but the road is difficult to traverse. This section is still the easiest to walk, but the next part will require climbing the mountain. Luke's mouth was certainly not idle, he was talking all the way, and at this moment he was pointing ahead with a long stick. There is indeed a mountain in front. The mountain is not very high, only about 100 meters, and not too steep. However, Niss knows that walking on mountain roads is not an easy task. Walking on flat ground is definitely easy, but it's hard to say how many hills you have to climb when it comes to mountain roads. Used a sword to cut off a tree branch and carved it into a cane. Niss followed Luke and started climbing the mountain. Despite being prepared, he still didn't feel as relaxed. Luckily, he had been traveling and exercising his body for 3 months, otherwise he would have probably collapsed after climbing over a hill. You can't do it. You lack exercise too much in your daily life. People like us, at your age, can easily go back and forth between the monastery and the hermitage, just like taking a leisurely walk. Luke mocked Niss, but his words were not malicious, and he even deliberately slowed down his pace so that Niss could keep up. You said that life here is leisurely, but I don't see how hardworking you are. Niss retorted with sarcasm, he is not easy to bully either. Even if I'm lazy, my goal is to become a knight. I was sent here since I was 7 years old. At that time, I had to wear armor and run around the town every day. Then, I would practice wrist strength by swinging a wooden hammer, arm strength by wielding an iron rod, and strengthen my waist, back, and leg muscles by carrying sandbags. I have never stopped practicing these basic skills. Luke boasted about himself, and in front of Niss, he indeed had the qualifications to boast. At this moment, Niss was panting like a dog, with its tongue almost hanging out, while Luke remained calm and composed, without a hint of exhaustion, and his footsteps remained steady. In the monastery, it is indeed easy to be influenced by the monks and become lazy. However, the monastery also has its benefits. As long as one maintains a good relationship with the monks, when feeling tired from training, it is easy to find a monk to help restore energy and eliminate fatigue. This also means that as long as Luke and the others are willing, they can continue training indefinitely, and their progress will naturally be much faster. Luke, this gossipy guy, comes from a good family and has a kind heart. He naturally gets along well in the monastery, and he has good relationships with any monk he befriends. Taking care of minor matters like restoring energy and eliminating fatigue is no problem for him. Therefore, among the students in the same period, he can be considered one of the top few in terms of strength. And at this moment, he showed his enthusiastic side, talking non-stop all the way. The hermitage is different from the monastery. In the hermitage, everyone takes care of themselves and solves their own problems. Unlike the monastery, where the doors are closed during the day and there are dozens of eyes watching all the time. However, on the other hand, although the monastery lacks freedom, if you shout for help, there will be a lot of people to assist you. There are fierce beasts in the mountains, so you better be careful. The most dangerous one is the bear. Even if you wear armor, it's useless against that guy. He can flatten you with a single slap. Besides that, wild boars are also dangerous. Armor is useless against them too. On the other hand, wolves are not scary. Their teeth can't bite through armor. I see that you seem to have a piece of armor. If I were you, I would definitely stay in the monastery for a while, at least for a year, to learn 1 or 2 martial arts skills, not to deal with anyone, but to have the ability to protect myself in the mountains. So that I won't be dragged away by wolves while sleeping at night. Every Saturday, someone will deliver things inside. The safest way to return to town is to follow them. Niss didn't say a word. He couldn't get a word in edgewise with Luke, the big talker, so he just kept listening. He quickly realized that Luke was very familiar with Audemont, not only knowing the geography of the place like the back of his hand, but also being well informed about the monastery and the important people in town. Every word he said was surprisingly not nonsense, but carried useful information. The sun gradually rose, and the weather gradually became hot. Just before 10 o'clock, Niss finally saw, on a cliff, a faint glimpse of several rows of neatly arranged caves, with glimpses of high panes, corridors, domes, and columns between the caves. The hidden monastery was actually carved out of the cliff. I wonder how much effort and manpower it took. A winding and narrow path extends from the mountain ridge all the way there. I won't go down. Luke and Niss exchanged greetings, then turned around and left. He was a lazy person, and this place didn't give him a good feeling. Watching Luke go away, Niss carefully walked down the mountain road. Walking this path definitely requires courage, because there is a cliff right next to it, without even a guardrail. The width of the mountain road is about the same as a shoulder. Niss glanced down for a moment and felt dizzy. It felt like his whole body was floating outward. He was scared and quickly stood against the mountain wall, and the big sword and bag in his hand, clang, fell to the ground. Suddenly, a gust of mountain wind blew, and Niss felt as if his whole body was about to be lifted by the wind. He pressed his body closer to the mountain wall and tightly gripped the crevices with his fingers. Fortunately, the large sword and bag that had fallen at his feet were not blown away, but the walking stick he had whittled was blown off the cliff. Niss' face turned slightly pale. The wind blew in gusts, changing directions sporadically. Sometimes it came head-on, and other times it blew from behind. Niss cursed silently and slowly moved downwards. He spent a full half-hour walking down the short slope of just a few dozen meters. He finally breathed a sigh of relief after entering the secluded monastery. The hidden monastery is built against the mountain, directly carved into the cliff. When it was originally constructed, they must have first carved 2 horizontal caves as corridors, and then carved individual rooms along the vertical mountain wall. The rock separating the rooms became natural walls and pillars. Compared to the monastery, this place appears more simple, with stone walls, stone pillars, stone floors, and stone steps, without any decoration, just simple polishing. What surprised Niss is that there is not a single person to be seen here. He was wandering around the secluded monastery. This place is not big. There are only 2 long corridors connecting each other at both ends. There is also an open-air platform near the other end. Standing on the platform and looking around, the scenery is indeed very beautiful, but the mountain wind is also very strong. He almost got blown away. The more important parts of this hidden monastery are all on the upper level. There is a chapel and the dean's office. Only these 2 places are somewhat decorated. The chapel has a wooden floor and stained glass windows with decorative inlays. The dean's office has an iron shutter. On the lower level, there is a dining hall, a kitchen, and a warehouse. In addition, there are over 10 empty rooms whose purpose is unknown. The doors to other areas are all closed, except for the chapel, which is open. Niss walked in. In front of the church is a large crucifix, with 5 rows of benches underneath. The benches are made of oak, without any paint, but the craftsmanship is very fine. With nothing else to do, Niss kneels in front of the crucifix, praying. I don't know how much time had passed, but he felt that there was one more person inside the church. Are you the newcomer? The person behind has already been sizing up Niss for a while. With his strength, Niss is simply transparent in front of him, and he sees through everything inside and out. Very good, you have a solid foundation. That person praised a sentence. Niss turned his head to look. The person behind me is probably around 45 or 56 years old, with a large build and a face full of horizontal flesh. His unkempt beard makes him look more like a butcher than a monk, but despite his fierce appearance, he exudes a similar aura to the old man named Simon. It is a subtle and restrained presence. The old man has never explained what this restrained aura represents, but Niss can guess that it is definitely a proof of strength. This person in front of me is definitely not ordinary. Are you Dean Glorial? Niss can roughly guess the person's identity because Luke had mentioned that he would be greatly surprised when he saw the abbess of the convent. To be honest, he is indeed a bit surprised now. Generally speaking, as one's mentality changes, their appearance will always undergo some changes. If one commits many murders, their face may not become ferocious, but at least there will be a hint of cruelty. On the other hand, as people in the church gain strength, no matter how malicious and sinister their hearts may be, their appearance is always peaceful. However, the person in front of him completely subverted his understanding. Yes, I am Growler. The dean nodded. Are we the only ones here? Niss asked the question in his heart. In fact, he also wanted to ask where the dean had just run off to. Of course not. Although there are fewer people in the hermitage compared to over there are still around 30 people. The first thing you need to do after joining the hermitage is to find a place to live for yourself. The rule here is that you have to do everything on your own. After looking at Niss' age, the dean rubbed his chin and hesitated for a moment. Finally, he relaxed the requirements and said, until you have built a place to live, you can temporarily choose a room to stay here. Niss expressed a thank you. For him, they actually made an exception. The dean continued, here, no one will bother you, and no one will disturb you. Unlike the monastery in town, if you want to leave, you don't even need to tell me. This is exactly what Luke told him, and Niss doesn't think it's a good thing. He won't be bound by the freedom st. What if I want to be ordained or learn something? He came here to improve his strength as quickly as possible. Leisure is definitely a luxury for him. You can come to me, and I will make arrangements for you. However, everything comes with a price. Of course, things like taking vows are not included. The dean quickly shut his mouth, and he suddenly remembered that there were a few things that were necessary, even though those guys in the Holy See who were obsessed with money would not dare to make money from every single thing. Let's forget about today, how about tomorrow? I'll arrange for someone to assist you, so you can familiarize yourself with this place first. The dean's words undoubtedly issued an eviction order. Niss retired very respectfully. He dare not show the slightest disrespect, even if the other party does not care about his attitude. His father has always told him since he was young that the attitude he holds towards others determines how others perceive him. It is never a bad thing to show respect to those in higher positions. Perhaps his father had some issues in dealing with the servants at home, but he has been successful in other aspects. The hidden monastery is built 2/3 up the cliff. When Niss came, he took the stone steps down from the mountaintop, so he knew there was no one above. There is another set of stone steps leading down to the foot of the mountain. This section of steps is slightly longer than the previous one, equally narrow and steep. Niss continued to feel his way down the cliff. Fortunately, halfway down, the terrain became much flatter, and there were no more steps, only dirt roads extending in different directions. Because it was a slope, these dirt roads were carefully paved to prevent slipping. Every few feet, there was a wooden stick placed horizontally, which also served to prevent soil erosion. The place where the hidden monastery is located is an irregularly shaped valley. The surrounding mountains resemble tree roots, extending in all directions. The direction of the mountains can give a clue about the direction in which the valley extends. Niss strolled leisurely. This valley was originally supposed to be covered with forests, but now many areas have been cleared and turned into farmland. Wherever there is farmland, you can see houses. Those should be the houses that Dean Grolier mentioned, built by himself. Walking along the way, Niss was quite an eye-opener. These houses are all unique, not only in terms of style and design, but also in the materials used for construction. The majority of them are made of wood, with some being bungalows and others being treehouses. There are also some houses built with rammed earth, which come in several types. Some are built on flat ground, while others are partially underground, with a hole dug in the ground first. There are even simpler ones than this. He saw a cave dug into the mountain wall, with a stone wall built at the entrance, without even a door. Another comparable option was a thatched hut, consisting of only 4 wooden pillars and a roof made of bundled thatch. The surrounding walls were also simply made of thatch. This somewhat inspired Niss. He could also build such a house, but if it's not possible, he can only make do with a thatched hut. As he walked, he heard a distant sound of metal hitting, as if someone was blacksmithing. Niss followed the sound and reached the intersection of 2 distant mountain ranges, where the valley came to an end. A burst of gray-white smoke rose into the sky. On the halfway up the mountain, there was a barren patch of land, with 6 iron smelters lined up and several people working around them. Niss suddenly remembered what the dean had just said. There are more than 30 people in total in the secluded monastery. Unexpectedly, almost half of them have gathered here. No wonder there is not a single person to be seen in the secluded monastery. Only one of the 6 iron smelters was lit, but 3 people took turns putting iron pieces into the smelter to forge them, and then hammered them on the nearby anvil. The iron bars were quickly flattened and turned into thin iron sheets. After cooling in water, these thin sheets were gathered in front of a large carp knife. Nice to see this kind of pane knife for the first time. The handle of the drawing knife is very long, but the blade is only a little over a foot long, and it is as thick as an axe. It is precisely because of this strange design that the effect of this face knife is astonishing. Those thin iron pieces are stuffed into the stretcher knife, and when the face knife closes, the thin iron pieces are immediately cut into thin wires 1 millimeter wide. Because they are cut, the wires naturally curl, and the people nearby trim those wires neatly, and then wrap them around an iron rod. Although I only see these people threading iron wire onto iron rods, Niss can already guess what these people are doing. This group of people is definitely crafting chainmail armor. He used to watch people make chainmail in Flanders. They would first draw iron bars into wires, then wrap them around an iron rod. After going through the process of reheating, forging, and quenching, they would cut the iron rings into sections and use them to weave chainmail. The process here seems to be much more complex, but he feels that the efficiency is much higher on this side. When I first saw people forging chainmail in Flandel, the most impressive thing was pulling the iron wire. It needed to be pulled back and forth more than 10 times, from the thickness of a little finger to as thin as a toothpick. The pulling speed couldn't be too fast, as it would easily break. And here, the big hammer swings swiftly, able to forge a thin iron sheet in just 15 minutes. The person wielding the knife is even faster, their hand moving up and down in an instant, not even taking half a second. The cut iron wire can wrap around 3 iron rings. Looking interesting, Niss walked over and wanted to take the opportunity to greet these people. After all, he would be living here in the future. What disappointed him was that all those people saw him, but acted as if they hadn't. No one responded to his greetings, not even a glance. Although the butcher, Dean, had already told him that the people here wouldn't meddle in others' business or disturb them, seeing how closely they cooperated, it seemed that they weren't all practicing in solitude. After watching for a while, Niss felt that the person working around the iron hoop had the easiest job, so he approached closer. "Are we going to war recently?" Niss asked softly. There are a total of 5 people responsible for wrapping the iron rings. Although it is a manual task and is simple and easy, the speed is not fast. Only one person is needed to answer in Niss. Unfortunately, all 5 of them completely disregarded his presence and did not give him any face. Your craftsmanship is quite unique. Niss intends to try flattery. What makes him depressed is that the effect is not very good. Not to mention these 5 people who are circling the iron ring, the others have no reaction at all. Niss hesitantly stepped aside, glancing at the pile of iron bars that had already accumulated, and then at the iron rods preheating by the iron furnace. He observed for a while and roughly calculated that these materials should be enough to produce 5,000 to 6,000 sets of chainmail armor. This was definitely a big deal. On the way here, Niss had already heard the old man say that in this corrupt era, even the ascetics cannot be called serene and devout. Their lives are not just about prayer. On the contrary, these ascetics are talented in various skills and are proficient in several crafts. In their free time, they often study some strange and rare things, which is closer to magicians in many ways. Similarly, the life of ascetics is by no means austere. They have no worries about clothing and food, and are skilled in various crafts. They also have a lot of free time, so they often create things that they can not only use for themselves but also sell to others. The things they produce are often much better than the works of craftsmen outside, so the sales are definitely not a problem. Because of this, these monks will never lack money. Niss initially agreed to become a monk, and a big reason for that was because he heard these words. However, at that time, he was still a bit uncertain. Now, after going through it all, he is absolutely certain. This batch of armor is valuable, not to mention that blacksmithing is definitely not the only way for these ascetics to make money. Just now, he saw a row of water carts by a small stream, with a mill and other workshops nearby. He also saw several groups of sheep scattered in the woods, and there were vineyards on the hillsides with clearly planted grapes for winemaking, which he was very familiar with. Obviously, these ascetics have plenty of financial opportunities. This is not a hidden valley, but a real golden valley. Now he understands more and more why the old man always said that this is a decadent era. Everyone is pursuing money, the Knights Templar, kings of various countries, and the church. The entire church is pursuing money. Not only priests, bishops, and archbishops have ways to make money, but monasteries also make money, owning numerous industries. Even the hermitages have a way to make a fortune. The elderly seem somewhat lost in this decadent era. However, he likes it. The first day of joining the secluded monastery went so badly, which made Niss very frustrated. He spent the whole day just walking around this valley, getting familiar with the surroundings. He didn't have time to get to know the other hermits. In fact, he didn't even know how to approach them. Although the old man Simon helped him unlock his wisdom and instilled a lot of knowledge in his mind, there was no way to communicate with people inside. Fortunately, the next day, someone finally spoke to him. In the early morning, just after finishing morning prayers, someone came to knock on the door. Opening the door, I saw Dean Groller standing at the entrance, with a butcher's face full of flesh. Behind this butcher, there was also a monk in his 30s. At first sight of the monk, Niss felt a slight pain in his eyes. This person's body occasionally emitted a surging holy power, giving the impression that he was enveloped in an invisible aura of thorns. Very strong, extremely strong, strong enough to make people tremble. Although this person's realm may not necessarily surpass that of the old man Simon and Dean Groller, if they were to truly fight, it is very likely that those two would not be his match. After 3 months following the old man, Niss gained some understanding of this world. He now knows that cultivation level does not represent actual strength, nor does it indicate the level of combat power. Cultivation level refers to the hierarchy of power that one can command, and the higher the cultivation level, the higher the level of power one can command. Like the old man named Simon, he has already reached the realm of time and space. However, the person in front of him belongs to a different type. They do not pursue high cultivation levels, but purely pursue combat power. They are only interested in divine arts that can enhance combat power, and they use them to a remarkable degree. They have even changed the nature of holy power. They have turned the originally gentle and nurturing holy power into something sharp and aggressive, similar to battle chi. They are born only for battle, living for slaughter, and can easily defeat those with much higher cultivation levels. Niss Hot Consel, our new member, he has not yet been ordained, that's why I asked you to come. Dean Groller turned to the person behind him and then turned to Niss, saying, this is Brother Morgan. He is the one I brought in to preside over your ordination ceremony. No one is more suitable than him. Are you a judge? Niss asked the monk tentatively. Priests like this have various titles, such as adjudicator, arbiter, battle priest, and cleric warrior. Other titles are common, but only the adjudicator is exclusive to the religious tribunal. Ironically, this type of alternative priest is the most numerous within the religious tribunal. I used to work for Count Claudio. The monk obviously guessed what Niss was thinking, which indirectly revealed his identity. I heard for the first time that a judge became an ascetic. Niss used surprise to conceal his embarrassment. After all, it is impolite to suspect others. No one said that a judge cannot become an ascetic. Morgan, the monk, is quite humorous, completely unlike the other reclusive monks here who are so indifferent. Seeing this person avoid answering, Niss immediately understood. There must be a story behind this person. In the church, the situation of judges and penitents is similar. To become a judge, one must also give up most of their power. It is unlikely to follow the path of priest, bishop, archbishop for promotion, but they have their own system. If they keep ascending, their status is not inferior to that of a bishop. There is also an advantage to becoming a judge. They do not need to abide by those strict rules and regulations, and they can even have a legitimate marriage. It can be said that judges and penitents are completely opposite. The former pursues powerful strength without any restraints, while the latter pursues a pure heart and seeks to strengthen their relationship with God through penance and abiding by rules. A high-ranking judge giving up everything they once pursued to become a hermit surely has undisclosed reasons. The sunlight shines through the stained glass window, casting its rays directly onto the crucifix in front. The hazy and colorful light adds a touch of sacredness to the cross. Niss knelt in front of the cross, with a cushion beneath his knees, as the duration of this ritual could be quite long. At this moment, his hands are clasped together in front of his chest, and he is reciting a prayer. Beside him, Monk Morgan holds a thick scripture and recites from it, sprinkling a few drops of holy water on Niss' head after each passage. As the holy water evaporates, a hazy halo of light envelopes Niss' body. The light gradually becomes brighter, resembling flames at times, occasionally soaring up towards the ceiling, and sometimes gathering into a small cluster as if it could extinguish at any moment. Father Morgan didn't pay any attention to these changes. His job was only to recite scriptures and sprinkle holy water. The process of the ritual was very simple, but it took a long time, which was why Dean Gloriel didn't want to personally preside over the ceremony for Niss. And at this moment, although Niss was kneeling in front of the cross, his consciousness was already in another world. He was looking around in astonishment. The big tree in the distance, with a fence next to it to prevent the sheep from coming in, and the rows of tombstones, all of this is so familiar. This is his hometown, the small town where he was born and raised. Suddenly, he saw his relatives whispering and discussing something under that big tree. Niss approached step by step, bewildered. Strangely, none of his relatives actually saw him, as if he were a transparent heir. Henry's estate is not worth that much money, taking it won't do you any good. Besides me, who among you has the connections to inherit the title? We can't get it, but we can make sure you can't get it either. Is it necessary to be so extreme? We are all relatives. Don't say such useless words. We are also related to that mixed breed. If we really talk about emotions, we should help him deal with you. I only want the territory, I don't want any other property. Isn't that enough for you? Greed should have its limits, Labelle. Don't think I don't know that it's you instigating behind my back. What? Trying to threaten me? Blood brothers settle accounts clearly. Henry is dead, his property should have been divided among us. You take the largest share, so naturally you should compensate all of us. Okay, I'll buy it at the market price, and you guys can split the money. Sounds good, this is a fiefdom. Where can ordinary land compare? Otherwise, I also have a lot of land in my hands. Can you help me turn it into a fiefdom? Don't you have this connection? Relatives argued fiercely, pushing and shoving each other. Niss felt a surge of anger welling up from his chest. He remembered, it happened the day before the funeral. On the following day, these guys joined forces and took away everything that belonged to him. Niss clenched his fist, how he wished he had a long sword in his hand. Even if he couldn't kill all these guys, he at least wanted to kill the guy with the curly hair in the center. All these people were brought by him, and the whole thing was initiated by him. Even his father's death might be related to him. Suddenly, Niss trembled all over. He remembered that all of this had already passed. All of his possessions had been donated to the church, and his relatives didn't benefit at all. In fact, they were all fined a large sum of money. The church's ability to strip people of their assets was no joke. As for that piece of land, he designated it for the person who had betrayed him. Although that guy gained some benefits, he became a target of public criticism and his days would definitely not be easy. This is a test, all of this is fake, everything has already passed, all of this is fake, everything has already passed. Niss keeps murmuring in my heart. This move is indeed effective, and his heart gradually calmed down. At that moment, suddenly everything changed before my eyes. The old man disappeared, the cemetery disappeared, and even his relatives all disappeared. The surroundings transformed into the house of his estate, with maids chatting and cleaning the rooms. I don't believe in all this talk about an illegitimate child. I suspect that the old man has some physical issues and is incapable of having children. So, I simply picked up a stray kid from outside and pretended that he is my own son. You say this, I'm afraid it's because the old master has never laid a hand on you. But to be honest, based on your appearance, you really don't catch people's eyes. Yeah, we know best whether the old master is looking for a woman or not. I heard from old Muen that the old master was quite a playboy when he was young. Do you really believe what that guy said? The Baron had just died, and he hurriedly went to inform the Horn family. He's the only servant who has access to the study key. The birth certificate and baptismal records of Xiao Yizhong are all in the study. I saw them before, but they mysteriously disappeared later. Use your brains and you should know what's going on. Nice's mind was blank, and he didn't hear a word of what was said afterwards. He only knew that the anger in his heart was burning stronger and stronger, and no matter what, it couldn't be extinguished. He never thought that old Muen would actually betray him. Until the day he left home, he always thought that old Muen was one of the few loyal people, because old Muen did not join the relatives like the other servants, but chose to leave like a housekeeper. If it is said that the father is always generous to other servants, then it can be said that he treats old Muen with great kindness. Lao Muen's life was saved by his father, and his father trusted him, making him the manager of the estate and granting him and his whole family freedom. How much Nis wanted to fly back immediately. He wanted to ask Lao Muen what exactly happened. Why did he betray his father and him? Why did he leave after choosing betrayal? In the chapel, Brother Morgan frowned slightly as he glanced at Niss. He saw a flash of red light above the little one's head. Brother Morgan shook his head, not having much faith in Niss. The ordination ceremony is a test of one's resistance to original sin. The reason why this test lasts for a long time is because at the beginning, the person's mind is always clear and able to restrain their emotions. Only after experiencing a long period of testing and becoming mentally exhausted, will they gradually become unable to hold on. The little guy failed as soon as he started, indicating that his will is very weak. What makes him even more pessimistic is that the first failure is actually anger. If the failure was due to laziness and overeating, it would be understandable. Children have poor self-control, and most of them have never experienced hunger and fatigue. In the dreamland, as long as they are thrown into an empty and uninhabited place, let them travel for several days and nights, and then present a large pile of food and a soft bed in front of them, it would be difficult for them not to fail. As for the 4 sins of envy, greed, pride, and anger, children are also prone to them. However, the younger they are, the more innocent their hearts are, making it easier for them to overcome these 4 obstacles. Especially when they are aware that they are being tested, if they can exercise a little self-restraint, they will definitely be able to persevere. The little one's performance disappointed him, but at the same time, he also breathed a sigh of relief. In his opinion, the second failure would come soon, followed by the third, fourth, and soon he would be able to be relieved. Unfortunately, it didn't happen as he wished. An hour passed, and then another hour passed, but there were no more unexpected incidents on Nice's body. Instead, a faint blue light occasionally appeared. In the midst of the illusion, Nice's mood became increasingly calm. jealousy and greed, these two obstacles, he lives a peaceful life. He, who has been endowed with wisdom, possesses the judgment of an adult. However, the more crucial reason is that both of these aspects tempted him with money, status, and similar things. Niss knows that money is a good thing and understands the importance of status, but he only knows it in theory and has never personally experienced it, so the allure of these things is very low for him. In the realm of laziness and gluttony, the exact night that appeared was the one after his father's funeral, when he was hungry and exhausted. However, in this realm, the feeling of hunger was intensified many times over, and those detestable relatives cursed loudly in his ears day and night, constantly stimulating his nerves, making it impossible for him to sleep. However, all of this was meaningless. That night had such a profound impact on Niss that he could almost feel the old man Simon hiding in the winemaking workshop behind. Therefore, he completely ignored his hunger and fatigue. Apart from failing the anger level at the beginning, he has been very smooth all along. But now, he has encountered trouble. At this moment, darkness lay before his eyes. Only the cold moonlight shines through the narrow window. Isn't that the scene from the room in the monastery the night before yesterday? A slender yet voluptuous woman is lying with her back to him, his hand already reaching under the innermost layer of her clothes, with one hand's fingers flicking that crimson spot. The other hand is pressed against her soft abdomen, feeling the plump and smoothness there. Niss' mood was stirred, but he did not forget that he was undergoing a test. Just like being bitten by a snake, he quickly pulled his hand out and recoiled against the wall. The woman seemed somewhat surprised by this reaction, and with a hint of curiosity, she made a soft sound and actually turned around, changing from facing away from him to facing him. "Weren't you very fond of it just now? Why aren't you taking action now?" she asked softly, her figure exuding an indescribable charm. As she spoke, she gently approached. Niss unavoidable, when two soft jade clusters pressed against his chest, a delicate body rushed into his arms, and his hands instinctively embraced it. Originally, it was just a slippery feeling at his fingertips. Now, he feels the entire person in his arms is slippery and soft. What makes it even more unbearable for him is that the woman's abdomen is pressed tightly against his, and every gentle twist stirs up ripples in his heart. His mind is filled with desire. At that moment, the woman's lips approached his earlobe and gently bit it. Niss doesn't feel any pain at all, just feels itchy, and the whole body feels numb. "Do you want to know who I am?" the woman asked softly, her breath blowing against Niss' ear, making the already trembling little guy even softer. "I think," Niss shouted involuntarily. As soon as the words were spoken, everything disappeared like a bubble. No longer is it a pitch-black darkness before my eyes, nor can I see the bright moonlight. There is also no soft jade warmth embraced in my arms, only a profound sense of loss remains. At this moment, he deeply regrets. He regrets not his own failure, but regrets failing too early, otherwise he would have known who that woman was. Once again, he pinched his fingertips and felt the smoothness, then sniffed it at the tip of his nose, as if he could smell that faint fragrance. Just as he was immersed in the wonderful feeling just now, suddenly, brightness filled the surroundings. It was as if he had entered a world of light in an instant, where even the air emitted a faint glow. There is no land here, underfoot is steaming clouds and mist. Occasionally, clusters of golden light emerge from the clouds. Above, there is a patch of sky, with many lights automatically gathering together and flowing slowly, as if it were a river made of light, and also like a constantly changing rainbow of light. For a long time, he finally noticed himself. He seemed to be made of light, his whole body composed of a faint glow. When he reached out his palm, it could actually pass through and see what was behind. This must be the body of the Holy Spirit. The most devout believers, after death, ascend to heaven and transform into this kind of spiritual body, gaining eternal life. Niss suddenly woke up. He remembered that the old man had mentioned to him that every person who joins the church has the opportunity to experience the immense power of the divine. Indeed, his mind was filled with something new. There were over 20 prayers, some long and others short. The longer ones were like narrative poems, while the shorter ones consisted of only a single sentence. He knew that each of these prayers corresponded to a kind of ultimate divine magic. Nick didn't attempt to memorize these prayers because it was pointless. Once he left this space, everything would be forgotten. Resurrection, angel summoning, doomsday arrival, final judgment. A series of names of ultimate spells flashed through Nice's mind. Suddenly, he stopped. He found what he was looking for. Revelation, one of the two ultimate divine arts of the prophets. Another ultimate divine technique is called prophecy. The difference between the two is that revelation can know things about the past, present, and not too distant future, while prophecy is only related to the future. It is said that there are also two corresponding books, one called Revelation and the other called Prophecy. He dare not even think about those two books, as these legendary things can only be divine artifacts. Moreover, the existence of these two books has always been just a legend, and no one has ever obtained either of them. Force the heart to calm down. Opportunity only comes once. He will not forget the words spoken by the elderly person. God's generosity is limited, and if one is insatiable, they will ultimately gain nothing. Read the prayer of Revelation carefully. This is a very long prayer, and it is very difficult to pronounce. In the past, he would have to repeat it at least a dozen times to be able to smoothly recite the prayer from beginning to end. But this time, he succeeded in one go, and recited it very effortlessly. In an instant, Nice understood. In this world completely controlled by God, there will never be failure. I want to know how to seek the path that is most suitable for myself. Nice silently prayed. Just as he spoke out his innermost wish, a hazy green light appeared before him. The radiance gradually condensed into a piece of mirror, and in the center of the mirror, a familiar scene appeared. Halfway up the mountain, in front of 6 iron smelters, a group of monks were sweating profusely as they hammered iron. The image grew larger and finally focused on one person. This person stood in front of a K knife, holding the handle of a jaw knife. Under the jaw knife, thin iron sheets were cut into delicate iron wires.